Hi, Nav. Thank you for taking your time. I reached out to you because I saw that your profile, again, very unique. You're doing a lot of things for sustainability, wildlife. You spoke to me about waste management and a bunch of other businesses. And yeah, man, I just am looking forward to eating your brain. Um, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Mithil. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Um, how are you?
I'm fine, bro. I just wanted to like, how's 2024 treating you?
I think 2024 has been a very good year. It
Okay.
has been, I think, there have been lots of ups and downs, but I think more ups than downs. And 2024 is treating me very well. I would say I'm pretty much chilling right now.
Yeah. Okay. How's your mental health doing? Are you like yeah, because for a 17-year-old, I think handling so many things at once can be mentally draining. I've experienced that, like not maybe to your level, but to some extent, and it eats your brain up. How are you doing mentally?
Hmm. I think mentally, Uh, 2024 start would be, where I wasn't like, I would say mentally, it was hard for me to juggle everything. But I think I just built a lot of resilience, for the
Okay.
past 5 to 6 years that I've been working.
Yeah.
And also, I kind of uh, also set my priorities straight, understood what
Interesting.
comes where, what is important to me, what is not important to me, cut out things which aren't important, and just continue that way. And I think mentally, I'm in a much better place than I was in 2024 start. And I think there's still a lot of more room for me to handle more, to juggle more, and definitely to do more.
Okay. Okay. Can you talk to me about what your organization is? And if I'm not wrong, you started it when you were 11 years old. When people are 11 years old, they don't even know how to talk properly. And you started a business or an organization. Tell me the story.
Right. So, I can't be taking all credit for the organization because it was started with my brother, who is the co-founder, and
Okay.
he was 13 at the time. And he was also the reason that we started the organization. And so what happened was my brother's asthmatic. And in 2017 September, there was this landfill in Delhi, which is called the Ghazipur landfill. It's
Hmm.
around 130 meters tall. It collapsed, caught on fire, and killed two people. And then my brother was rushed to the hospital because he had asthma attacks during those 2 weeks. School was shut, air pollution was really bad. And I realized, and he realized that the waste from my house is going and becoming fodder for that fire, which is causing my brother's asthma. And so when I was able to make those links that my problem or something which I'm doing is contributing to my brother's health, that something has to change. And
Okay.
that's when we saw what is the existing model which is happening in the city and why is it landing up there, which is essentially that all waste is mixed up and sent to landfills. Whereas what we wanted to do was ensure that it doesn't end up in the landfill. And it started off with just basically hoarding our waste in our backyard until we found a probable solution to this problem, which was contributing 30% to Delhi's air pollution. And it took maybe 4 months, 5 months, and we had like this mini waste mountain in our backyard. And this was 2017, November, December. And our grandfather came to us and he's like, it's either you or the waste in the house. And then we were like, okay, let us figure something out. We contacted recyclers and stuff, and all of them wanted a minimum quantity of, let's say, half a ton, right? Or 400 kilograms, 300 kilograms. And as a single household, I cannot be producing that much even over a period of 4 months. And that's when I realized that we either send this waste to the landfill or try to get 300, 400 kilograms of waste and ensure at least this waste doesn't end up there. So we used the mom's WhatsApp group, went to our neighbors, said, can you please donate like 10 kgs, 20 kgs of waste just for this one time? We just want to send this to a recycler. And that
Yeah.
month we got some 1.5 tons of waste from neighbors and residents, and we sent it to a recycler. And we thought of it as a one shot thing, right? But the next month, those same 30 people came back to us and saying, can you do it this month as well? And that's when the idea came that why, instead of just making our home zero waste, why don't we make the whole of India zero waste? And that's when the idea of the organization really came into play, where we could be it was completely bootstrapped, right? So we started from absolutely nothing, and we were able to essentially create an organization which was completely bootstrapped from the get-go, and ensure that the waste which is leaving every household, corporate or school, is not ending up in the landfill, is not causing that air pollution, is not causing that asthma, but rather is getting recycled and getting re-put into the circular economy.
Okay. What? So when you started this, tell me the ups and downs of this. Tell me like the downs. Like tell me the hard days of the initial phase.
So the initial phase, I think the hardest part was convincing the parents, convincing my family, and convincing people that waste is something which isn't untouchable, something which, because historically it's had this
Stereotype.
stereotype, yeah, that it's untouchable, it's not something you should handle, not something you should do. So that was the hardest part, I think, initially getting that starting. And then we had to collect funds from all of these
Okay.
30 residents. So we're like, we need to start this. You want to start this? So give us like 1,500 rupees a year, right? And that was enough for us for 2 weeks of operation, which was
Hmm.
renting one truck to go home to home picking up this waste, and renting one person, and paying one person's salary who would drive the truck and put the waste in the back of this truck. And we knew that we needed enough waste till the third week, right? Because if we didn't hit the third week, we wouldn't be able to sell it to the recyclers. We wouldn't be able to do anything with the waste. And so we took that gambit. We took the money of other people, knowing very well that we promised them that this waste is going to end up recycling, without having enough cash for the next week or for the next couple of years. And so we had to go on a crazy marketing run, where we were knocking on doors, going to as many places as we could in those 3 to 4 days, and increase the number of households so we could get to that level where we were able to sustain our operations for that 1 month alone. And that was the hardest, one
Okay.
of the hardest tasks, because it's very hard to convince people to segregate their waste, because we're
Okay.
not your normal kabadiwala who's coming and picking up all your dry waste and wet waste. Because if we were, we would need at least 5 to 10 more people who would just segregate that waste. And so we would have to go home to those 30 people, plus the additional 20 we needed, teach them exactly how to segregate waste and remove that stereotype from them. And so that convincing was probably the hardest convincing I had to do in my life, trying to get them, start them on that first step, trying to get
Okay.
that first community started. That was the hardest part.
So where did that passion come from? Was it just purely from your brother that I need to do this? That ambition, I would say.
I think, it came from the idea of making, of, seeing, like, my brother's name is Vihan, and essentially, um, I was imagining the tens and thousands of Vihans who would benefit from this. And I saw the
Okay.
impact that I could have on not Vihan, but all of Vihan's younger brothers. And that's what really drove me to go that extra step, right? And that was the personal reason for me to create that sort of organization. And then it turned out to be something much much bigger than what I would thought, perceive that it could have been at that time.
Okay. Um, okay, let's talk. After that initial phase, then how did you guys sort of, let's say, expand?
Right. So we were at around 30, 35, 50 homes then. And the good part was that the service was working and people were actually taking a proactive step. And we were also earning money from the recyclers, right? Because when we would
Okay.
just send it to the recyclers would give us maybe 10, 15 rupees a kilogram, right? Which was still very, very less, maybe like 15,000 rupees a month. And then, the additional 15,000 you would get in cash flow from all of our customers. And then what we did was we wanted to formalize it a bit more. So we started partnering up with RWAs, went on for speeches, went on for
What is
talks.
RWA?
RWA is basically a residential welfare association, which is basically the
Okay.
head of any locality or the head of any area. There's a governing council. So we, approach them. We try to, replace the current waste workers, the current waste management system. Sorry. And it slowly grew very, very slowly initially. First year, we were at around 350, 400 homes, and we had a couple of implementation partners as well, with the trucks, with the warehousing, with all the other different areas of the organization. And then through these implementation partners, we were able to keep our costs very low and also be able to run this service more of goodwill. And
Okay.
then we came to a turning point. I would say around, when we were at 400, 500 homes, this was around 2019. We decided that we were going to ditch all our implementation partners because of the simple fact that we saw a lot of leakage in the system. We saw a lot of the
Hmm.
waste going to areas where it should not be going, where our goal wasn't being reached. And we took a really big gambit then. We took a loan of, I think, 10 lakh rupees at that time. And we basically got our own trucks, rented our own trucks, rented a small warehouse space, 4,000 square feet, got the first initial employees, got a whole system set in place of segregation, of aggregation, which is collecting larger quantities of waste at the warehouse. And then after that, things started taking a turn because our whole setup was there and everything on the back end primarily was, fixed, I would say, to an extent. And then we saw a lot of growth. We saw that in the next, from 500 homes went to 3,000 homes, right, in 2022. And then at COVID, I think it was just a stage in our lives where understood the people understood the impact of waste because they were living in their house, they were seeing the amount of waste they were generating,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we were also able to do some difference in our systems in place in our things. And so we scaled from 3,000 homes to 6,000 homes. And then 2023 to 2024, past year alone, we've scaled to around 32,000 homes. um, and the only way we've been able to do that is completely um, making the supply chain of One Step Greener just solely being owned by One Step Greener, and ensuring that we're also doing the recycling now. And that was something which really helped us improve our costs,
How
reduce
are
our
you guys
costs.
recycling it?
So we're doing, for example, for glass, we're shredding glass into sand, and
Okay. Wow.
we're making this sand into, for example, paints. It can be used for ceramics, for cement. Then
Hmm.
now we're launching our for-profit organization, which will be, taking waste from your house. Let's say you have plastic bottles, and we will be recycling those same plastic bottles, making really, really cool, modern, sleek designs of tables, of phone chargers, of all different kinds of things. And it's going to be India's first end-to-end waste management product. And we've set up basically, all the capex has been done. And so now we're just getting all the designs in place, getting the prototypes in place, and we'll be launching that soon as well. And that was just that's just a play on value addition, because right now at an OpEx level, we're break even, right? I would say to a
Okay.
large extent,
Okay.
we're break even. But at a CapEx extent, it's still very costly because we're relying on grants, on awards, and on certain loans as well. And so that's the gambit we've taken on going into the B2C path, where we were in the B2B path earlier.
Correct. Uh, You spoke a lot about how you had systems in place. Now, for someone who isn't really an entrepreneur as such, maybe an aspiring entrepreneur, can you talk to us about exactly what these systems are? Because I asked you this question because there's a lot of theory that we study about, oh, it's always important to set systems in place, about how even if you step aside from the organization should flourish because of the systems, right? Systems. But I think that as a society, we've sort of failed to understand what systems really are, right? About how things should work. So, can you explain to us what systems are, A, and how do you build your system and how you think it's going to help?
Right. So for me, a system is anything which, without input, is something which happens automatically at the best possible quality and time, right? And
Okay.
so I'll give you a couple of, I could be talking about systems for at least a couple of hours on, the different systems that you should have in place, different systems we have in place. But essentially, let's say, I'll talk a bit more on the customer end because I think people will be able to relate to that a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say that I have a customer. I'll give you two scenarios, right, on what we used to do and then what a system led uh, approach led, what a system led approach, what outcome it led to. So in the first approach, let's say we have a customer who's calling the one step greener supervisor, and he's asking the supervisor, when is the truck coming, what is the date the truck is coming, and um, is the yeah, let's take those two basic questions. Okay, when is the truck coming, and what time is the truck coming, right? These are two basic questions. Now what happens is that my supervisor has to, let's say, deal with 800 clients on a daily basis. Okay.
Hmm.
For that I need 30 supervisors,
Okay.
and on top of that there's going to be 30% of customers who will not end up calling, whose mind will not be on the waste, but rather because there are already systems in place by the government where the waste would be picked up from your home. It's already mixed and it would already go. There's already something happening there. Thus, it's also something where people don't really put their mind to. Okay. And so let's say you're losing out on 30% of your customers and you have 80 supervisors. Now, what a system would do is I would make a WhatsApp group for each locality. I would have
Hmm.
AI generated mods as well as supervisor mods. And every month, this Excel and this spreadsheet would be updated by, let's say, one supervisor, where the timings and dates for every single customer would be updated and sent on that WhatsApp group for those number of households in that locality, right? And then you have, let's say, chat. Let's say you have chat boxes, which basically at any given question, give an automated reply, which we've built a backlog for. And so, what essentially now happens is that for what took us 80, supervisors and at a 70% customer retention, is taking us now currently two supervisors for 30,000 households, which is
Yeah.
something which is pretty much two supervisors for 30,000 customers, which is all your customer relations, all of your customer support, all of your customer service across 7 cities, right? And that is the system which we've put into place, where I don't need to be looking, where nobody needs to be looking or doing something, but rather it's happening on its own, right? And it's happening very quickly. Every month at an exact, at 11 a.m exact, all spreadsheets, all excels, everything is sent out to customers. A personalized message to every single customer sent out with the date, the time, as well as the contact number of the driver is sent out, right? At what time is he
Crazy.
coming? What is the thing coming? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's say that's just one system that we've built. And like that, you need to have at least 80 to 90 systems in your back end, which is more important than your front end, in my opinion, just to ensure that you are minimizing your costs, A, B, providing the best service you possibly can, and C, increasing the amount of value addition on your goods and on your services.
And also making sure that you don't have much inputs in it.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. If you have to give
Yeah.
input on your business after a certain time, or organization after a certain point, then that's a big sign that A, you're doing something terribly wrong, or B, the business is just not going to work.
Okay. Okay. Uh, how long has this organization been running for?
It's been running for 6.5 years now.
Okay. And now do you feel that you're at a point where if you take a step back, the organization will have no effect, or or has that already happened?
Yeah, so a lot of people believe in consistency, but
Yeah.
just for my life, I can't be consistent, and
Okay.
I work in bursts. Okay, so
Interesting.
instead of being consistent with, let's say, something over a period of time, I work at highly concentrated months on certain specific things. And so, what
Okay.
happens, especially in a student's life, is that you have examinations, right? And those 1 or 2 months, you have to essentially lock in and work as hard as you possibly can, and it's hard to stay consistent with other things. And so, I realized that, and I've been able to put systems in place and people in place where I can work in bursts and still ensure that the organization is running smoothly. And so these burst timings also show me the resilience of the organization when I'm not, let's say, pursuing one step cleaner. And so, like examination times, I would probably be working on one step cleaner for 10 minutes a day, max to max, which is just
Okay.
replying to my emails and seeing the daily reports um, which I'm getting sent, right, by the organization. And
Hmm.
so, for me as a founder and as an executive, I get almost 50 daily reports from every single branch, every single employee, and every single customer relation about what has happened in the organization, why has this happened, and what is the current inventory, current stock, and current outgoings or outflows. And so I just need to spend 10 minutes a day on understanding every single problem happening in the organization, every single thing which is going on in the organization, and that's enough, right? I
Yeah.
can easily manage those 10 minutes of time any day, any year, at any point of my life. And so I work in these bursts just because how hard it is, with school and just generally life. I just don't think it's easy to be consistent or practical to be consistent, especially with students.
Okay. Uh, Also, now that you talk about these being consistent and productivity hacks, I feel like you're someone who would have a lot of hacks, I would say, or ideas about how to manage everything. Okay. When I say manage, I mean consistently improve on every single aspect. You have school, you have business. Now, there's a lot of ambitious people. Something that I have realized through this podcast and networking in life as well is that there are a lot of people at our age who want to do what you are doing, but they're just lazy. Like, if I'm very being like, if I have no filters on, I'm just going to say that they're being lazy, right? And also because I feel that if they start doing what you're doing, they wouldn't be able to keep up with it mentally, or with just they wouldn't have ideas of how to keep going in both or many aspects of life, right? What would you tell them, or like what would you tell people around you who are ambitious? That's the only thing that I would say is common between you and them, is that they're ambitious. Both of you guys are ambitious, but after that it's just you're on a different level because you've implemented and they're not. So what would you tell them on how to keep going?
So I think there's I would say three types of ambitious people. First
Yeah.
is, I would say, people who are ambitious but don't do anything, and that just shows me
Yeah.
that they aren't really ambitious. Because if you're
Interesting.
ambitious enough, you will end up doing and taking that first step. But second type of people, which I think what I'm about to say would be useful, is the ambitious people who have taken that first step and who are doing something but are stuck in moving forward, right? And as a student, what I would say is that if you're in my shoes, maybe you're anywhere from the age of 11 to 18. I would say that a couple of things which I do in my life, which allows me I would say, to do those implementations, take that steps, is prioritization. And I don't think I can stress that enough. It is just about self reflection. It is about how much you know your own self, how much you know about your own goals, how much you know about your own priorities. If you're ambitious, if you're highly ambitious, then what is the reason that you're ambitious? Why are you doing what you're doing? And if, let's say, you're a student, how important is school for you? Because you have to understand that in India, I'll give you a bit of context that in India, for example, studies is heavily linked to your, at least in my opinion, to your familial life as well, right, with your
Okay.
family.
Yeah,
And
okay.
essentially, whether you like it or not, I would say 90% of students, even if they don't want to study, have to study just because of the pressure, or maybe because of the surroundings, because of the family, things which you just have to do. And I just feel that you need to understand that where is that ranked in your priority list, and accordingly work, right? And you have to understand that some things have to go. Like for me, I love basketball, right? I've played for the Delhi state team. I loved, I was in the school team. I used to go for tournaments. And then at a certain point, I realized that, is this what I want to do? Is this something which is going to end up, um, reaching, or, leading for me to get to that goal, that ambition that I really want to, or is it
Yeah.
not? And so I quickly realized that the more you reflect about your own self and about your own activities on a day to day basis, the better chances you have of taking that next step, right? And if you're feeling lethargy, if you're feeling that you don't want to be doing something, then I think at that specific point you have to do more self reflection. And I just can't stress that enough. It's just, in my opinion, it's just about knowing yourself to the maximum ability. If you know what you like, what you don't like, something which I used to practice for self reflection was two things. I would sit next to the mirror for at least 45 minutes a day and just think. And the second thing I would do is, on any car ride which I had, any way where I was, going somewhere in public, I would not speak for maybe 2.5 hours a day and just think. And I think those were the most important times, which I still do on a day to day basis. Just try to get that self reflection on understanding on why you're not doing something, why you're getting stuck, because everyone has the answers.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what to do. I know tomorrow that if I want to be, the richest person on the world, what I need to do. I know the exact steps, right? No person online needs to tell me what needs to be done, right? There's no quick way of doing anything. And essentially, I know tomorrow that if I want to be the best athlete in the world, if I want to be Cristiano Ronaldo, if I want to be Lionel Messi, I know exactly what I need to do and how I need to do it. It's just about why you're not doing it. And that why can only come through self reflection.
Okay. Okay. That's a deep answer. And it's honestly very impressive for someone who is 17 to have that level of clarity of thought. Um, you spoke about self reflection, right? What other advice would you give? Let's say self reflection, and I'm reflecting on myself and I'm thinking that I'm just procrastinating and I'm getting distracted, right? What would you tell me then? Okay, is that something that you face, procrastination?
I would probably say no. I
Okay.
would I would, I was more prone to procrastination, I would say, a couple of years before. But the way that I deal with it is, anything that I don't feel like doing, I try to do it at that very moment. So for me, let me just, give you the easiest example, that when you feel something in your stomach, I think this is something which anybody can relate to. Let's say that you have a crush, right?
Hmm.
And you're wanting to go speak to that person. That feeling that you get in your stomach, right? That sense of, I would say butterflies essentially. That's the same feeling you get in business almost every single day. That's the same feeling you get when you're setting up on the court. That's the same feeling you get when you're doing a trade, right? And that feeling is, I think, the most powerful thing which I've ever felt. Because at that moment, if I do what I don't want to be doing, if I'm sending that email I don't want to be sending, if I'm talking, if let's say I'm in a networking event, there's somebody I really want to speak to, but I'm feeling intimidated, or I'm feeling like I don't have much to offer. When you start walking, I've programmed my brain, I would say, in a certain way that when I get that feeling, I automatically do that thing without even thinking. I don't think, I just do, right? And that way, the way that I was able to get to that point was just through forcing myself. It was just brute force. I would just force myself to do things which I was uncomfortable in. And it got to a point where, let's say, for example, yesterday I had a call with IKEA, right? They wanted to do some waste management with us. And so I
Okay.
was really, really nervous because I had so many questions, right? And automatically I didn't even realize, but I was on call with the IKEA person before the meeting, asking her these specific questions. And at the end of the day, that feeling you get when you just do it, right, and that feeling of those butterflies go, it's just such a sense of, I would say, happiness, or even dopamine production, I think you get in your
Yeah.
body, that it just makes you want to do it again and again and again and again and again, till it becomes to a state where it's not even conscious. You're doing it unconsciously.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. What is your can I ask you something deep? Like, I want to get into your brain. What is like your deathbed goal? And when I say deathbed goal, it's like when you're dying, when you're laying on your deathbed, what is something that you would look back and say, I am grateful to myself that I have achieved this?
So in my life, I've always thought of just one thing, which is to be the most successful person. And for me, I know success as a term changes as long, throughout time. So for me right now, the word success means creating the largest impact, right? For me,
Okay.
maybe in a couple of years, the word success may mean to be the happiest person, right? And so for me, at any point of time, whatever success means, I want to be achieving that to the highest possibility, and to the
Okay.
highest way that I can just push myself towards that goal. And so I don't have any set goal where I want to do this thing before I die, but it's more of I want to achieve maximum success in whatever it may be, right? Whether that be creating the most impact right now, being the most happy in a couple of years, maybe, anything it may be. And right now, I'm just focused on creating impact and creating change. I think that's just what I'm,
Did that come from a lot of self reflection? Because that's a deep answer. Again, that's something that I feel you would have thought of for a long time. So, where did that come from?
Yeah, I think self-reflection. This was the first week itself. I came up with the idea that what does somebody want to do in their life? What does everybody want to do in their life? And the simple answer to that is be the best version of themselves, or be the most successful person. And then I thought that, okay, what does it consist? What constitutes a successful person, or what may for one person, why is this person happy with just doing this, right? Or why do they think that they're successful with just passing this exam, for example, right? And that's when you realize that everyone has a different idea of success, and that's okay. And I also may have a different idea of success going down in my life, and I just need to reflect again on that same success on every point of my life. So I keep on reflecting on what is it that my end goal is. And I also realize that your end goals can change, because a lot of people preach that your end goal should be static. It should be something which you're aiming for, like, I want to be the best athlete in the world, right? I don't think it has to necessarily be that. I think it can
Okay.
change, and it's okay for it to change.
Because people change with time, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And so do your priorities. Yeah. I think that's something that isn't spoken about. The fact that it's okay to change your priorities. It's okay to have a different end goal to what you had 2 years ago, maybe. Yeah. How is, are you enjoying this podcast so far? Are you feeling
Yes,
comfortable?
yes. I think it's one of the most, normally all podcasts I've been in, interviews I've been in, it's just been, less deep, just more about, superficial things, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Have you been in any other interviews, or is this your first podcast?
No, so I've been in a lot of interviews, mainly just
Okay.
news channels, or, for certain awards and things. One or two
How was that
podcasts.
experience like? How is it like getting interviewed by a news reporter, bro?
So, I mean, there's been a lot of crazy stuff which has happened, right?
Okay.
I think that one thing which, like, I always felt earlier that I didn't deserve it, right? That I didn't deserve this attention which I'm getting from maybe the media, or that the better people, better projects, better things which they should be focusing on. I'm just doing my own thing, and I'm going to continue doing my own thing, whether they give me that attention or not, right? And so give it to people who would, change, or would do something more for that attention, right? And that was always my thought earlier. And I was first, my biggest understanding of what we were doing and the impact we were creating was in 2019, that we actually won the International Children's Climate Prize. And
Okay.
this is an award where we didn't even want to apply for. We thought it's a
Hmm.
waste of time for applying for such an award. And at the end of the day, you end up getting it. You go to this global stage, you're meeting the finance minister of Netherlands, you're meeting all of these people in Sweden, apologies, and you're getting we won 100,000 krona as well, as just funding for the organization, right? And then we
Okay.
got news channel reports, NDTV. We got so many people wanting to interview us. And I think at that time, I think there was just a bit of arrogance which I think came as well with that attention, right? I would feel that we got interviewed by, I'm not sure if there's this actress called Dia Mirza, and she interviewed us
No. Okay.
on her Instagram page, which had like five, I think 16, 17 million followers or something like that. And so it was
Okay.
absolutely like bonkers for me as a kid. I was 13 years old. I was experiencing all of these things, and it was just I think I was just the experience was uh, I would say very, very. There's no way to put it in words.
Okay.
I would say. I would say it had a lot of.
Butterflies in your stomach ish.
Not really. It
Okay.
wasn't that type of feeling. It was a different type of feeling where I wasn't sure if I wanted to feel that way again.
Really? Okay.
It was like,
Okay.
yes, I'm getting this attention, but is it really something which I want? And I think that was something which was a bit of a thought in my mind, whether this is something which should affect me or not. And I realized, again, like I'm coming back to this again, but through self reflection, that it's taking me or deviating me from what I need to be doing, right? I realized that in those interviews which I watched back again and again and again, that I wasn't speaking about how other people could change. I wasn't speaking about my mission. I was speaking about my organization, right? And that was the difference. I realized that if I really want to do what I'm saying or preaching that I want to do, I have to reflect that as well, wherever or to whoever it may be.
Okay. When you were getting attention, did you feel that around you in terms of friends? Like, I want to ask you this very like face to face and raw. Were you getting clout?
So this is actually a very funny question. So after the Children's Climate Prize, we won, I would say, another award which we didn't expect to win, which was much bigger. Greta Thunberg had won it, Malala had won it. Only one person wins it, and I came back to school. And throughout this journey, in terms of if you're saying for clouds or for friends, my friend group never changed. uh, B, they never looked at me differently. and they still used to make fun of me. I would say my cloud never increased or decreased. I would say it stayed at where, I think it should have been, or what it was.
Yeah.
It was just, I think school was such a grounding experience for me. It just made me like feel like a normal student, and I never felt like I was this person, or I was someone who's done this in my life, and I think that's really important to me. And that just came through school. My friends would, how normally friends are, right? They would like beat you down through
Yeah.
jokes, to
Yeah.
the little
Yeah.
banter you have. And so I never felt that way. I never got, any cloud per se. In the starting, it was actually very bad, because, we were working with waste, and a lot of my classmates, I remember, for example, they would throw, like, let's say, garbage on the floor and say, now go pick it up, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh,
or Dekh, Kuda wala aa gaya, which is, look, the guy has come. And so I would like take that in earlier as, an insult, but later I realized that it's exactly what I want to be known for. And I just took that part of my strive, and whenever it happens, I laugh about it, I enjoy, and so I think it's just a bit of a learning journey through that way.
Crazy. And you're the one who broke the stereotype. So I think that's something you should be proud of. Now, when they look at you, they wouldn't say that because you've broken that stereotype, right? Uh, yeah. Uh, what do your parents think of all this though? Like, are they like
So
proud?
I mean, mostly they don't, normally the businesses and all, we don't really like keep that on the limelight or anything. We don't like to, parents barely, I think they know some bits of it. But, for us, that has never been the focus. It's always been the organization. And I think they feel earlier, they were hesitant on the organization because, it takes a lot of your time away from studies, which was their main concern.
Yeah.
And I think now, I would say that they are right. I think in most social gatherings and all, they express it a bit more.
That's a
And
great sign. Yeah.
so that's I think the best sign you can get. Maybe personally they don't as much, but I think in social gatherings they do quite a bit. And I
That's when
think
you know you made it, bro. Yeah.
so. No, so for me, my dad's like definitely like somebody I really look up to, and my grandparents especially even more. And when I see them maybe talk about the organization and such strive, it's just such a fulfilling experience.
Yeah. Um, what are your future plans? Like, where do you, very cliched question, but where do you see yourself in the next 48 months?
48 months. That's oddly specific.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
in 2 years. Most likely I would be, I would say, in college.
Hmm.
I would see that the organization, we would have a for-profit organization as well for One Step Greener. I would say that we've at least scaled up maybe 6 to 7 times in the next 2 years. Apart from that, I think just wish that in the next 2 years that I've been able to reinvent myself at least 4 to 5 times.
Yeah.
Completely evolve and change my way of thinking. At least,
Yeah.
at least 4 to 5 times in the next 2 years.
Nav, just talking to you right now made me realize exactly why I want to do this content thing. It's because I want to bring to light people like you, right? Because I think 2024 people are just hooked on to brain rot Instagram reels, but but when like people like you I talk to and I tell my friends about it and I post it on YouTube, I think there's a sort of realization that there's hope. There's hope in this generation. So bro, and you're someone who, I don't know how many people have told you this, but you're a very confident guy and who knows what you're doing, and that clarity of thought makes you very attractive, I guess. So I just want to say that talking to you for the past 50 minutes, uh, I'm proud of you, man, for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure this was like parents would also be like, oh, look at him, like, the Sharma ji ka beta, like you would be the Sharma ji ka beta, bro. And yeah, I really wish that this isn't the last time that we talk. uh, how did you feel? How was your experience?
I think it was amazing. Probably the only podcast where I've let myself go. I think
Yeah.
a lot of advice from me, a lot of gyan. I think unnecessary also at certain times, but I think um, it was a cool experience. I would say never done a
Yeah.
podcast like this about my own values, beliefs, and things, and
Why did
so
you choose to Why did you choose to come on this podcast?
for me, I've always thought about advocating and talking and teaching, but I've never got an opportunity to do that. Right? I've got an opportunity to
Okay.
advocate about my work, but I've
Yeah.
never been able to advocate about um, how other people can do what I'm doing. Right? And I've always wanted to create a masterclass, maybe in the future, about what people can do.
You should.
Um,
Yeah.
how they can start, step by step. And I watched a couple of your podcasts. I think you'll send me a link as well, and I watched the full podcast and I enjoyed it.
Really? That's
Yeah,
great. Okay.
I enjoyed it quite a bit, and so I was decided that I would like to come on.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm sure that your podcast would, when I release it, would gain a lot of eyeballs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think again, bro, like the fact that you're so confident and you just know what you're doing, just I think that sets you apart. Like honestly, I feel like that's one trait that I took from you today. You sat in this room and you knew what you were gonna say, and you just had so much of intellect. Like it wasn't even like you were wanting to give gyan. It was just coming from a pure, like, when people are generally just wanting to spit some bullshit and they're just saying it for the sake of saying it. And I've experienced that. But with you, it was coming out from somewhere that was natural. And I just want to say that, like, don't let that go, bro. Yeah.
Thank you so much. But I think it's just, 6 years of practice of talking and speaking, and maybe my yapping isn't looking like that just because of the practice that I've had. But, thank you so much again. It's, a very good
Yeah.
compliment.